Hi, I'm Amy Romeo and welcome to my Spring Fling Crafting Event where I'm sharing a brand new faux leather craft for your Cricut for spring every day for 10 days. Today's video will be this spring key fob wristlet design where you have a wristlet for your wrist, a key ring for your keys, and then a fun little layered faux leather accent. I have a flower and a butterfly for you. I'll have these SVGs for you in my shop and I'll leave a link to them for you so they're easy to grab. I'll also have links in the description for all of the tools and materials that I'm using. Let's just talk about it quickly for a moment. I'll be using my Cricut Maker today, but you can use these SVGs with any of the current Cricut machines, including the Cricut Joy Xtra and even the Cricut Joy as long as you have the longer 12-inch Joy size mat. I'll be cutting my faux leather using a purple strong grip mat. If you're using the Cricut Joy machines, use the green mat that comes with those. And then the faux leathers that I'm using are some pretty prints. You can use prints and solids as I've done here, or you can really mix and match and have fun with these. Now, in addition to the purple strong grip mat, I'll use some blue painter's tape. That's going to help me get good cuts. I have some craft scissors, some small curved scissors, just in case I need to trim any faux leather. I have a pin pen weeding tool. You can use a weeding hook if you'd like. Now these are connected with rivets. That's this little shape here, and those are very easy to assemble. I'll show you how to do that using just a regular hammer and the tools that come with the rivets. But if you don't want to use rivets, then I'll let you know how you can swap out the rivets and just use something like fabric glue. Now this bottom part here, this is called the wristlet hardware. This is a 1-inch size, which is going to fit the shape of the wristlet. And these are very easily attached using some nylon jaw pliers. Usually the wristlet hardware will come with the pliers. Again, I have links for you. This is really easy to do, and I'll show you how to do that. Finally, I'll show you how to attach a fun faux suede tassel at the bottom, just using some regular jump rings and some jewelry making pliers. So if you're ready to learn how to make this project, let's go ahead and hop into Design Space, and I'll walk you through how to cut this pattern, and then I'll show you how to assemble these fun spring wristlets. Starting with a blank canvas in Cricut Design Space, you'll click on Upload, and then Upload Image, and you'll browse to where the unzipped SVG file for this project is saved on your device. Click on it to select it, and then click Open. You'll see a preview of your shapes, and then click Continue and Upload. So here we can see both of our wristlets. This is a very simple design. The long rectangle will be the wristlet shape, and then the layered flower and butterfly will be that little detail at the bottom. Now you can see that there's a small hole that pierces all 4 layers, and that is for our 6mm rivets. As I mentioned in the introduction, if you don't want to use rivets and you want to use glue, you absolutely can, but we do need to make a slight modification to this design first. So let me show you how to do that. So the first thing we need to do is ungroup all of our shapes so that each layer is available to be manipulated or changed individually. So let me show you here. I'm going to click on the wristlet, and when I click on the wristlet shape, then the contour option is illuminated. So I'm going to click on contour. This is what we use to hide shapes that we don't want to cut. So you can see there are 2 shapes that are going to cut. One is the outside, and then one is that little hole. So the way to keep the hole from cutting is to click on just that little circle there, which is a little hard to do because it's small. There we go. Or you can click on it here in the layers panel. Either way, when you click on it, it should gray out. And then when you X out this menu, then we will see, let me drag it to the side, that the hole is gone. So you will want to do that and contour the hole away on not only the wristlet layer and all 3 of the little accent shape layers if you're going to use glue. But I want to use the rivets, and I'm also only going to cut one of these designs today for you. I'll cut the flower. So I'm just going to delete the butterfly wristlet off of my canvas. Now the final thing I wanted to mention was I've designed this in different colors here for you so you can see the difference between the flowers and the wristlet, but all of these shapes are faux leather, which means they can all cut on the same mat to save some time. So to do that, we just need all of our shapes to be the same color, and Cricut Design Space will put them on the same mat. So there's 2 ways to do that. You can select all of your shapes, and then right up here in the little color box, just choose any color, doesn't matter what it is. and then Design Space will put them all on the same mat to cut. You can also use the color sync feature up here. Click on color sync and you'll see all of your different colors. You can just take our wristlet shape here, drag it up to the other shape, and now everything is the same color. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and click the Make It button. The first thing we need to do here is toggle the mirror button on because faux leather cuts in reverse. And now we have our different shapes here on the mat, but I do want to cut the wristlet from a different color of faux leather than the flowers. So I'm going to drag my flowers over here to one side. Now I'm going to cut all 3 flowers from the same color, but if you wanted to cut them from different colors, I recommend dragging them into little separate areas of the mat so that I can cut a piece of faux leather just slightly larger than each of those shapes and use the grid lines to help me. And that's going to help you get better cuts on different types of faux leather. But I'm going to cluster them all together so that I can cut them all from the same piece. And then this piece, I'm going to just drag it a little bit away from the edges. I'm going to center it right along that 1-inch mark. And that way I know here I'm going to use a piece of faux leather about 2 inches wide and 12 inches tall to cut out the wristlet shape. Over here, I need a piece of faux leather about 3.5 inches wide and 3 inches tall. Okay, so I'll click continue. The cut setting that I'm going to use is called Faux Leather Paper Thin. If you don't have it bookmarked as a favorite like I do, you can click on Browse All Materials and search for it. If you're using the Explore Air 2, you'll need to turn your dial to custom before you can find this setting when you search. So Faux Leather Paper Thin, and I always choose more pressure. That helps get a better cut. And here's the reminder that we're just using the regular fine point blade that comes with all of the current Cricut machines. Okay, so we're ready to cut. Let's hop over to my overhead camera. We will cut out our shapes and I will show you how to assemble this project. So I've got my sticky purple strong grip mat and I've gone ahead and trimmed my faux leather down to those sizes I saw in the mat preview screen where my shapes would cut out completely, but there's not a lot of extra faux leather. And the reason that I do that is because when the piece is smaller and we tape it down with blue painter's tape, then the little piece is less likely to shift while cutting, and that's a great way to help us get good cuts. Now I did want to mention, a lot of people will want to know how you can put something on the inside of the wristlet. So I didn't put any heat transfer vinyl on the inside, but you certainly can by pressing the heat transfer vinyl to the back of our faux leather piece first. So you would press it with something like an Easy Press Mini, just any kind of heat transfer vinyl, press it really well, and then with the heat transfer vinyl on the back, then we'll place it down on our mat, and that way when it cuts, it's going to cut through both the faux leather and the heat transfer vinyl. I hope that makes sense. So I'm going to take my faux leather here, place it down on my mat where I see the shapes are going to cut. And then we're going to use that blue painter's tape and we're just going to tape our pieces down on all sides. Now the reason I use blue painter's tape is because it doesn't leave a sticky residue on the mat or on the faux leather, and these pieces can be peeled up and saved and then used multiple times on other faux leather projects before you need to throw them away. So I've got my faux leather taped pretty side down onto my purple strong grip mat. We have our faux leather paper thin cut setting with more pressure ready to go. So we'll just load the mat into the machine and begin the cut. So the mat has cut one time, different shapes from different pieces of faux leather all at once, which is great. Now I'm going to use a sharp weeding tool and just lift up the edge of my cut and see if it went all the way through. Now if it didn't, that's okay. We can rerun the cut as many times as we need to as long as we haven't unloaded the mat. So the way to unload the mat is just by pressing that cut button again. If you're on the Cricut Joy, then the option to rerun the cut will be on your screen in Design Space. Now this design has some little holes here with the flowers. So normally if I didn't think that the cut went all the way through, I would definitely run the cut again just to make sure those little holes are coming out cleanly. But these look pretty good. So I'm going to unload the mat and remove my shapes. And you'll want to just take a moment and poke through that little hole there and then remove these little flowers and poke through the centers. And if you have any little fuzzies on the edges of your faux leather, now's a great time to use something like small curved scissors and just trim up those edges. But this material from one of my favorite suppliers cuts beautifully, so I don't need to do any trimming. Okay, so I have my shapes of faux leather ready to go. I've taken my 3 little flower layers here and just stacked them up together in a way that I like. Now these little petals, you could sort of move them around if you'd like, if you want your flower to have a different look, but I'm going to stack them all up right on top of each other. Now, if you're using glue instead of rivets, I'm going to recommend that the first thing you do right now is take your stacked layer of petals and glue those petals together. So I like using Beacon Fabri-Tac for faux leather because it's really a fabric-based product, but you could also use something like Aleene's, or you could use Bearly Art Glue. So if you're using glue, glue your flower together first and set it aside to dry. But we're going to be using rivets. So rivets are these little metal pieces. It's almost like a nail, a little nail here. There's a head at the top and then a little post. And then the other side, which snaps on, is just the head itself. So we're going to use these 2 elements plus the little tools that come in the rivet package to apply our flower to our faux leather wristlet. So the first thing I'm going to do is take the rivet piece that looks like a post, and I'm just going to press that post through the back of my faux leather so the post sticks up through that hole. Just like that, the post is sticking up. Now I'm going to take my little flower petal stack here, line those all up too. And what you want to do is spend a moment getting this organized the way you want all those petals on top of your faux leather, because once you hammer down that rivet, you won't be able to move your petals anymore. So that looks pretty good. Now you'll see that this is getting a little bit tight in here. Here's our post, that's all we have left of it. But don't worry, because now we're going to take the little end cap and we're going to put that right on top. A little hard to see, and I'm going to push it closed with my fingers. So now it's pretty flat and tight, but what we want to do is now hammer this into place. So I'm going to put this down here on my work surface. This is called a strike plate. It's just a little metal circle that's going to help give you something to hammer onto. So I'll put my strike plate flat side up and then put my rivet right on top. And then this little plastic piece, this is what you hammer onto. So there's a flat end and you're going to hit the hammer with the flat end. There's a curved end, and the curved end is going to sit on top of the rivet. So I'm just going to put that curved end on top of the rivet, use any old hammer, and I'm going to hammer about 7 times. And that's all we need to do to get that rivet nailed down into place. You can see my petals don't move anymore, and the back is nice and flat. Okay, so now we have our flower on our wristlet, and now all we need to do is apply our wristlet hardware. So again, this is a 1-inch wide wristlet, so this is a 1-inch wide piece of wristlet hardware, and all we want to do is take the 2 ends of our wristlet and touch those 2 ends on the bottom. Now, if you are gluing your flower, I recommend you pick up with me now at this part of the tutorial. You won't have your flower on yet, you'll just have your wristlet, but go ahead and put the 2 ends of your wristlet together at the bottom. You're going to find the top of the wristlet. So there's a side that's finished, and then there's the back side that has the 2 little holes. We want to have the pretty finished side on the same side as our flower or butterfly is going to go. And then all you're going to do is place this inside up to the back of the wristlet hardware. Now you want to make sure that it's nice and lined up. And I'm going to need to turn this way because I am left-handed. But basically it's going to fit just like this. And you can use some tape if you need to help you do this. I'm going to hold on to both of these items. I have my nylon jaw pliers. These have nylon on them so that the pliers won't scratch up the outside of your wristlet hardware when you're squeezing. All I'm going to do is try to grip this here, and then making sure everything is lined up and neat, I'm going to squeeze down really hard. Now you might have to squeeze on one side and then go back on the other side and squeeze as well. There we go. And you'll want to try and make sure that you don't get your flower petal stuck there like I did. So just watch that when you're doing that. But there we go. There's our little wristlet hardware on with our flower. Now, if you're using glue, I would recommend after you have your wristlet hardware in place, then glue your flower or your butterfly right here on your wristlet and let it dry. So the last thing to do is just add a little faux suede tassel if you'd like. I'm going to use a 6mm jump ring. Use my jewelry making pliers. Just open up that jump ring. Attach your faux suede tassel. And then attach it to your little key ring at the bottom of the wristlet hardware. And that's that. Isn't that cute? Here's another look at the Spring Key Fob Wristlets all put together. I can't wait to see what pretty prints and patterns you combine to make this really fun and easy project. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.